First portion of this assignment, we're really going to be digging into each of these components of an exploded moment. And remember, there are three big things that we're talking about here. We're talking about writer's binoculars, which are those sensory details. We're talking about a snapshot, which is really something that is like a still life image, something that where there's not a lot of movement happening, something where it could be just as easily be a painting hanging on a wall as it is a description written in the text. And then a thought shot, which is something that should be showing something that was invisible, like their thoughts, their feelings, or their reactions to something. So what we're looking at here is a specific example where this simple sentence, which is a simple sentence that shows up in a lot of student writing, just in terms of it's just got very basic stuff here. I walked into the McDonald's and people were busy everywhere. We're going to take a look at what it looks like to kind of explode that moment and really make sure that there's a lot going on here. We're trying to create a 3D picture, a 3D moment for your audience. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read through this with you on your sheet of paper in front of you. I'm going to ask for you to mark every time that you hear a writer's binocular, every time that you see a thought shot, or every time you see a snapshot. I'll help you with the first couple, and then you'll be on your own for the remainder of it. And then at the end of this video, we will take a look at an example of what a completed one should look like. So here we go. Please be marking as you listen. The sweat-soaked workman, so immediately you should have underlined sweat-soaked and written above that something like sight, right? Because that's something that we can see. Some of you might have even wrote smell over that because I feel like I can totally smell what that would have looked like. The workman hunched over the stainless steel counters, underline or highlight stainless steel counters. That's a sight detail. Bellies bursting out of grease-stained t-shirts. OMG. I would also underline that one. Again, it's another example of some really great sight sensory details. An old man slouched in the corner, holding an aluminum cane in one hand and a rolled-up newspaper in the other. He swatted at flies as the workers scurried behind the counters, stuffing bags with greasy burgers, rushing to the beeping friolators to scoop the golden, greasy potato sticks, slinging steaming robot food onto red plastic trays. What a dense sentence. All of those are really great details in a lot of ways. You should have multiple things underlined. So there's more than what I'm going to mention here, but workers scurrying behind counters would be a really good example of another sight one. Greasy burgers might be something that you could actually touch. Beeping friolators is something that would be a sound sensory detail. So again, be underlining and highlighting as we go. The smell of sizzling fat hung heavily in the air, and I wondered how it is that the taste of salt, grease, and charred beef could be so appealing to an empty stomach. My mouth watered in anticipation as the perky young girl slid the bag across the slick counter, murmuring my thanks as she squeaked out, "Have a nice day." What I'm going to ask you to do right now is, again, go through and make sure that you've got all of these underlined. If you need to go ahead and play this 5-minute timer that's here, I don't want you to really spend a ton more time than that. But I want you to go ahead and I want you to mark this all up, identifying as many of those sensory details as you can, those writer's binoculars, and then making sure that you find there is a snapshot and there is a thought shot in here as well. Please go ahead and pause the video while you work, and then you can come back to this video to see a possible model here in just a few minutes. Thank you for pausing the video. Let's take a look at a good example of what this might look like. So here was the one that I had done. As I went through, you'll notice where I've got things underlined. I've got lots of different sensory details marked here. The snapshot is where it says an old man slouched in the corner, holding an aluminum cane in one hand and a rolled up newspaper in the other. That could be a picture that's hanging somewhere just as easily as it is a detail sitting there. And then the thought shot is down toward the bottom where it says, I wondered. And anytime you see a signal phrase like that, I wondered, I thought, he wondered, she felt, any of those kinds of things where it's those inner processes, that's where it's going to be your thought shot. At this point, you should be finished diving into this whole example. This is another mentor text, but it's an example of how to take a simple sentence and turn it into an exploded moment.